The world had fallen silent. Not a whisper of wind through trees, no hum of traffic, no laughter of children. Only the oppressive silence remained, heavy and suffocating. Dust motes danced in the pale light filtering through the grimy window of a dilapidated apartment building. Inside, amidst the decaying grandeur of a once thriving city, a lone figure hunched over a battered CB radio. Her name was Lena, and the radio was her only companion in this desolate world. She clutched a worn photograph, its edges softened by time and countless touches. The picture depicted a smiling family, their faces now lost to the ravages of whatever catastrophe had befallen the world. Lena's fingers traced the outlines of their faces, her heart aching with a familiar pang of loss. The silence pressed in on her, amplifying the emptiness that had become her constant companion. Every day, Lena followed the same ritual: rise with the sun, scavenge for supplies in the desolate cityscape, navigating through the remnants of a world that once thrived, and return to her makeshift sanctuary before nightfall, a place she had fortified with whatever she could find. As dusk painted the sky in hues of faded hope, she would switch on the radio, a relic from a time when communication was taken for granted. "This is Lena." Her voice, roughened by disuse, pierced the static, a beacon in the void. "Is anyone out there?" Her words echoed into the void, met only by the indifferent hiss and crackle of the radio waves, a sound she had grown accustomed to. Each day, she clung to the hope that her signal might reach another soul adrift in the sea of silence, someone who could hear her call and respond. The possibility, however faint, fueled her will to survive, giving her a reason to face each new day with determination. She meticulously recorded her broadcasts in a worn notebook, her meticulous handwriting a stark contrast to the chaos that surrounded her. Each entry a testament to her resilience. Each entry detailed her location, her dwindling supplies, and a flicker of hope for a response, a small light in the darkness of her reality. The notebook had become her lifeline, a testament to her unwavering belief in the existence of other survivors, a record of her journey and her hope. Lena knew that as long as she kept broadcasting, there was a chance, however slim, that she might find someone else out there, someone who could share in her struggle and her hope. Her days were filled with the mundane tasks of survival, but the broadcasts gave her life a purpose beyond mere existence. In a world where everything had been stripped away, Lena's voice was a beacon, a signal that humanity still endured, even in the void. One day, as Lena concluded her daily broadcast, a sound so faint she almost dismissed it as a trick of her tired mind reached her ears. It was a voice, distorted and weak, yet undeniably human. Her heart pounded in her chest, a frantic drum against her ribs. "Did you hear that?" she whispered into the microphone, her voice trembling with a mixture of hope and trepidation. The static crackled in response, amplifying the silence that followed. Just as quickly as it had appeared, the voice vanished, leaving Lena questioning her own sanity. Days turned into weeks, and the silence returned, heavier and more oppressive than before. The memory of the voice, however, lingered in Lena's mind, fueling a desperate hope she hadn't dared to entertain before. Driven by the ghost of the voice, I decided to venture out further than I ever had before. The city had always been a place of mystery and danger, but something about this day felt different, as if the shadows themselves were calling me. Armed with a rusty crowbar and a backpack filled with meager supplies, I stepped out into the eerie silence of the deserted city. Each step felt like a journey into the unknown. The weight of my supplies, a constant reminder of the precariousness of my situation. Buildings stood like skeletal giants against the unforgiving sky, their empty windows staring back at me like the eyes of forgotten ghosts. The once bustling streets were now empty, the echoes of past lives lingering in the air. I moved cautiously, my senses on high alert. Every sound, every shadow seemed amplified, as if the city itself was alive and watching my every move. The feeling of being an intruder in a place that was once familiar was overwhelming. The silence was deceptive, broken only by the crunch of my boots on the debris-strewn streets. Each step echoed through the empty buildings, a stark reminder of the desolation that surrounded me. The wind whistled through the canyons formed by the buildings, carrying with it the faint scent of decay and the promise of danger. It was as if the city was breathing, its breath a cold, eerie wind that sent shivers down my spine. The city, once a symbol of human achievement, now stood as a macabre monument to its own demise. The grandeur of its architecture was now overshadowed by the decay and ruin that had taken over. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, that the silence itself held its breath, waiting for me to make a mistake. The oppressive atmosphere weighed heavily on me, making every decision feel like a matter of life and death. The city was a labyrinth of shadows and echoes, and I was just a solitary figure trying to find my way through its haunted corridors. Days later, exhausted and with my hope dwindling, I stumbled upon a clue. In a dilapidated bookstore, half buried under a pile of collapsed shelves, I found a map of the city. It was old, but crucially, it marked the locations of several amateur radio operators. Armed with renewed determination, I plotted a course through the desolate cityscape. The journey was fraught with danger. Packs of feral dogs roamed the streets, their eyes gleaming with a hunger that chilled me to the bone. The ruins themselves were treacherous, filled with crumbling floors and hidden crevasses. But the memory of the voice and the hope it represented spurred me onward. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, I arrived at the location marked on the map. It was an old apartment building, not unlike my own, but this one looked eerily occupied. As I cautiously made my way inside, I noticed signs of recent habitation. The walls were crumbling, and the floor was littered with debris, but there were unmistakable signs that someone had been here recently. A flickering candle illuminated a makeshift barricade of furniture piled high against a door. The candle's weak flame cast eerie shadows on the walls, making the room feel even more oppressive. The air was thick with the smell of dust and something else, something metallic and vaguely sickening. It was a scent that hinted at violence, at bloodshed, and it made my stomach churn. "Hello?" I called out, my voice echoing in the oppressive silence. The sound seemed to bounce off the walls and return to me, distorted and hollow. "I heard you on the radio. I'm here." My voice was steady, but inside, I was trembling with a mix of fear and hope. Silence. Then, a shuffling sound from behind the barricade. It was faint, but unmistakable. Someone was there. My heart leaped with anticipation. Could it be? Had I finally found another survivor in this desolate world? The thought of not being alone anymore filled me with a cautious hope. The barricade shifted, and a figure emerged. I held my breath, waiting to see who or what would come into view. But it wasn't the welcoming face I had envisioned. Instead, it was a figure that sent a chill down my spine. It was a man, his eyes wild and unfocused, his clothes ragged and stained with what looked like blood. He looked like he had been through hell and back. He lunged at me, a guttural scream escaping his lips. The sound was primal, filled with desperation and madness. As he wrestled me to the ground, his crazed eyes met mine, and in that moment, I understood the horrifying truth. This man was not a survivor looking for help. He was a predator, driven mad by the world we now lived in. The voice on the radio, it hadn't been a plea for help. It had been a lure, a trap set by someone who had lost their humanity in this post-apocalyptic nightmare. And now I was caught in it,